What's up, guys? Welcome back to Rusty Here's. Today we are going to do a revival on our farm's Cub Cadet 122. So today we are just going to focus on getting it out of its grave. This tractor hasn't run in about 9 years, so we're going to pull it out, we're going to get it running, tune it in, and then in the second episode we're going to put her to work. And have a little bit of a closer look at where the 122 is buried. She just kind of parked off in this corner here. It won't be too hard to get it out. We have to move this giant oak board or two, and then on the inside we may have to move this little pallet. Then after that we can drag her out and start working on it. All right, now to move this giant board that I probably am not strong enough to lift on my own, but we're gonna give it a shot. That's out of the way. We got don't. Oh, you're annoying, aren't you? Oh. All right, that's steady. That's steady. This one I can actually move. Look at that. There we go. All right, so now what I need to do is go put air in that back tire so I can pull this out so we can work on it, because under the rack there's much room to work on it. So I'm gonna air up the tire, drag it out, then we can actually get to reviving it. That's going to be enough air for what we're doing. So for pulling out the tractor, I'm going to grab it by this front cast iron piece. Now, you have to be very gentle and grab it down low. If you grab it down here, you risk pulling it off and breaking stuff down here. So if I pull it low and slow and be very gentle, we can actually pull the whole tractor out. You got to go nice and slow so you don't risk damaging anything. But once you go nice and slow, she'll come right out of the grave. And then we'll push on the wheel. All right, now we can begin reviving it. So, some of you guys may notice we have this little tarp sitting on the hood here. I'll pull it off and show you why. This is the one thing in the barn that's painted nice. So we kept it nice for all this time. Now that she's been pulled out of the grave, I'll show you what she looks like a little bit more. Now I'm going to put the pair of towels right here so I can open the hood fully. This is going to get interesting. Oh. Right out of lens. There we go. All right, so first thing I'm going to check is our oil. Okay, we have enough oil. It's a little bit dark and a little bit low, but we have enough to safely run. Our dipstick's a little weird. And the gas tank is clean, dry, and spotless, which is perfect. But our gas cap's falling apart. Minor details. Alright, so now with a generous battery donation from a 782, we have a battery to use. If we can find which one's positive, I can put this in here correctly. Oh, these things look light, but they are heavy. That side will be our positive, and that doesn't reach your positive terminal. Sweet. So if I take this out, rotate it. Our positive is now on this side, and our positive lead can reach beyond that, so that's good. And our negative lead can reach our negative terminal. Now we gotta get this hooked up. The the hardware still seems to be in pretty good shape, so that's a good sign. Our negative terminal, that can go over there. There for the positive. You always gotta be careful when you're dealing with batteries. There we go. There we go, now we're in business. I might need to go get another wrench. Now, right now, I'm currently working on the positive side of the battery, so I'm not actually gonna do this because it's dangerous. If my wrench touches the positive terminal and the negative terminal, it's gonna cause a spark, and if you're touching that wrench, you're probably gonna get hurt. So it's important to only work on one side of the battery at a time. So I'm making sure that my hands and wrench are nowhere near the negative terminal because I don't want to get shocked. We're gonna snug this down. I may need to get a second wrench. My fingers are not that strong. Then once this battery's in, I think I'm gonna get some starting fluid and we're just gonna try it. Come on, wrench. Now, there isn't a really specific torque spec, but you just want the nut and bolt that holds the terminal to terminal, really. You want it nice and snug so that you get a good, clean connection between both contact points. And that'll prevent arcing and other bad things from happening to your battery and the hardware on the tractor. So now you can see this is tight enough. I start to move the battery instead of moving the bolt. Now for our negative terminal, we got a lot more wire to deal with this time, so I'm thinking something like this. Make it into a little loop shape. Put it on like this. Yeah, I'm sure that'll work. That doesn't hit the hood line or our battery clamp. Now, like I said, I'm taking care not to cross the positive and negative. So if I'm going to be touching negative, I can only touch negative. If I'm going to be touching positive, I can only touch positive. And that is the best way to keep you and your equipment safe. Now our negative terminal is getting snugged up. This one went on so much easier for some reason. And snug. Battery goes tight against the back wall. Battery clamp gets put on somehow. Oh, I gotta take the nut to make them really loose. Even looser. You know what? I'm just gonna take them off. Clamp is in place. Now we put our wing nuts on, tighten it down, and our battery won't go anywhere while this is out driving around. Now, you don't have to go crazy tight, but you do got to go pretty snug because this prevents your battery from moving around. So that's pretty important. And you can see when I shake it, the whole tractor kind of shakes. That's how you know you have it tight enough. And then after you run it for a little bit, you may just want to check these every so often. All right, now our battery's in. All right, step one for trying to actually start it, we're gonna lock our clutch down because this has a safety switch in it. Pretty high tech. I guess we just go for it now. I'm gonna spray some starting fluid in there. That was easy. Maybe that's foreshadowing. Maybe we're gonna have trouble getting gas. I have a feeling that that line may be corroded. But there is also no gas in the system. But she runs, and she ran pretty good for that little bit of starting fluid I ran her on. So that's pretty hopeful looking. All right, now let's get to putting gas in it. All right, I got my gas now. I'm just gonna put it in the tank, and we're gonna hope for the best. And this gas tank is spotless, which is really good. So now we don't have to worry about contaminants keep getting into our fuel and clogging up our carburetor and just giving us a hard time in general with this. I want to put all this in. This is, I believe the fuel tank on this tractor is like a little bit over a gallon. This gas tank holds a gallon, but I didn't fill it all the way. It's like half full. So we have like a half gallon of gas, which is plenty for just doing a little test run. Gas is put in. I'm gonna have to figure this out. I might just put a little like dab of glue so that it holds that in place, because that little seal isn't too important, but it just helps from stuff splashing out. We have fuel in our bowl. Oh, we have fuel. Look at the carburetor. Uh-oh. Do we have a pan around here somewhere, anywhere? Okay, gas is off now. All right, we're good. Crisis averted. We are gonna have to look into that though, because that should not be happening. Okay, so the reason why the gas immediately started pouring out is there's a little needle valve in here, and when that gets stuck, it overfills this little bowl part of the carburetor, and then it starts spewing out. We don't want our fuel to spew out, so we need to open this up. It has a little bolt on the bottom. I should probably have a rag nearby so I don't get covered in gas. Use the wrench as much as I can for this. When the nut comes out, this bowl is going to come out, and then we can see our valve. Don't want to get too much gas on me. Just gotta go for it now. Why is this bolt so long? Okay, now our bolt is off, and there's a little gasket between here and the body of the carburetor, so that's why it won't immediately come off. I'm really hoping that little valve for the fuel worked, otherwise we're going to be draining our whole tank. It's not what we want. And you do have to be pretty gentle while taking this off. There is some debris in there, which I expected, but in terms of something that's been sitting for this long, this is really not that bad. So I'm just gonna let this sit on our board here. Yep, and our needle is stuck. So I'm really up close to the carburetor here. This is our float that controls a valve. I don't know how well you guys can see it, but it's that little tab that moves with the float. And there's a valve that's up in the body of the carburetor, and that determines how much gas comes into the bowl, which I've removed at the moment. So we need to remove this float. There's a little pin right there. We're gonna take that out, check the valve that's up in there, and I'll show you the valve then. All right, everyone, plan B. So our pliers couldn't get this pin out. So if I gently get this punch situated and give it some little taps, I can actually drive it out. Now, I'm gonna use the little tip of the punch to show you guys where the tip of my punch is. That's the pin. Now we're gonna use our pliers, and there's way more pin to grab. Now we can slide it out. Then our float and the needle valve, which is up in there, can fall out. I now have my pliers. You still don't want to come out. I wonder if I can get this punch in there and drive it some more. Okay, now our pin is way out. Okay, it's coming out. That's as far as it's going to come out with the pliers. If I can get it just a tiny bit more, then it can stay in the hole. Wait, can I just... Oh, look at that. I'm gonna just use my hand to tap this. Still gotta keep on going. Use the pliers because there's way less, so I can gently tap in a little bit more force. And this is the game. Oh, all right. Well, it came out. Look at that. Now, if I gotta find it, and I hope I didn't ruin it. Okay, I found it. All right, so you can see part of our float is dry and part of it is wet. Now, this is supposed to be hollow because hollow things float on top of gas, right? And if we shake it, that sounds like a soda can. This is supposed to be dry on the inside, so there's a puncture in this somewhere. And it's leaking gas on me right now. So we need to patch this up after we find the hole, of course. But we need to first get all the gas out so when we solder it, don't blow up. And I'm gonna do my best to show you guys here. Our needle valve itself is in okay shape. This is what most of them look like, kind of well into their service lives. But this is a good usable part. We just need to spray out its seat with some carb cleaner in just a minute. But our valve is good. Our float needs some help, and we're gonna help the float right now. If I can stop dropping it. All right. As I said, our float has a leak, and if I hold it upside down at this angle, I'll give it a sec, that area is getting wet. So now what I'm gonna do, take a rag, we're gonna clean that off. We won't want any gas where I'm gonna be sanding. Because what we're gonna do, I'm gonna sand this with this very fine sandpaper, and then we're gonna solder this up. And you can actually see that looks like an old solder repair. So I need to flatten the surface. Now it's gonna get worse before it gets better, because the sanding is gonna take off some material. So you'll see I hold it upside down, it gets wet right up in this area. So that helps to pinpoint it. It's more in this area where our fault is. So I'm gonna sand it a little bit more, because you'll see it's corroded. And then if I pass the paper over it, it gets a little bit more uncorroded. This is a healthy part of the float I was just demonstrating. So we're taking off our corrosion there. I think we can probably run with that now. Just cobble solder on this upper portion of it here. I'll hold it upside down again to test. Yes, it is this portion and that seam. So I'm gonna do a little bit by the seam. All right, now we can solder this up. You guys can see, that's where the gas was getting in and out. That large crack there. Here's that upper one right there, and then there's that one. That's wild. Good thing we caught that, so now that it's shiny, you can patch it up with our solder. All right, so now we're going to get our float soldered up here. We're getting our soldering iron fired up. Now we had to be sure that we got all the gas out, because as you know, if gasoline gets too hot, it'll burn and explode, and we don't want our float to burn and explode. So here's our solder job. Looks pretty good. That should hold. All right, so now we just patch it up. So we're gonna put it in our salad bowl with water, and what this test will show us is if we hold it underwater. So I'm gonna hold it under here for maybe like, what, 2 minutes? And then if we take it out and if you're water in, then our patch did not take. So I'm gonna just hold it on. I'm gonna hold it here and I will give you an update when I'm done. All right, and it looks like our repair took, because if I shake it, you'll hear that no shaking sounds come out. So that means our soldering repair was a success. So no more liquid gets on the inside of our float, which is good. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to line up my needle into its seat. Then I'm going to use the tip of my punch and hold that needle into its seat. Now I'm going to take my float. Now that's lined up. This is a little bit of a tedious spot. Now I'm going to line up the pin that holds this little assembly together, slide it in. Now I still have to slide it in some more. But now the assembly is put together. I'm gonna use my punch again if I can get it lined up. Give a little bit of persuasion. Notice how I'm doing tiny little taps, because this is a really delicate system, so you don't want to go wailing on it. So you want to go nice and gentle, light, easy taps. All right, and we are in the spot that we want to be in. All right, now we're installed. All right, so now that I've got it threaded, I'm gonna finish tightening it by hand. I'm now gonna take my wrench, and because this is very delicate, I'm gonna go nice and slow. All right, nice and slow, and we're just going to get a nice snug finish, about what one finger can comfortably push. That's kind of the rule that I like to use. So about what your pointer finger can push is about how tight you want it. I'm gonna go a tiny bit more. We are now snug. So now our bowl on the carburetor, good and sturdy, that's not gonna go anywhere. Now we can turn the gas on with this little valve by the fuel bowl. I don't see anything leaking, so we must have fixed something. That's about as far as the valve wants to come out. I see that it's a tiny bit wet there, but this gasket hasn't had fuel on it in forever, and sometimes it takes a little bit of fuel to help moisten the gasket and seal it. And besides, our bowl was held tight enough to the carb body where I don't think we're gonna have to worry about it too much. So now I think we should give it a test run, and then we're gonna put the air filter plate on and then take it for a test drive. All right, so I feel we should now give her a little test run. I'm not gonna run it for too long because our hood's not obviously in the running position. So I'm just gonna hop on, run it for like 10 seconds, just really as a proof of concept to see if she runs. Then we'll put her back together and go run it. Really good. Sounds relatively fresh. It don't sound too worn out. Sounds pretty sharp and snappy. So our motor's in really good shape. So let's get her put back together. So now for some history on the tractor. My dad got a hold of it in '96 from South New Jersey. It was missing a generator when he got it. He replaced the rear tires and installed a new generator. He repainted it and re-decaled it. Then he moved on to other projects, and the 122 was left in the barn, forgotten. All right, I just got our air filter setup put on, so now we can run it in dusty conditions, and we don't have to worry about dust getting into our carburetor. All right, so now that, for the most part, we've got her back together, I'm going to just check her gas, see how much we got. We got like a half tank. And again, I gotta look at that fuel cap. I'm gonna check her oil. I didn't see it burn any oil, but it's still a good idea to check it. We still have the same amount. We just need to put in like a little splash oil because it's a little bit low, but we have enough to safely run. So now I'm gonna be really careful with this nice hood. We're gonna fold it back down. There we go. Now we can go run it. All right, our tractor's put together. We've run it just idling. So now I'm actually gonna try to drive this thing. I'm gonna move this lever. Okay, no, never mind. Kind of in my way of my leg here. Clutch down. We are in neutral. Let's try her. Give her some throttle. She runs good.